what makes a difference between a poet
Mhm.
and just a storyteller, a writer who just
Mm.
writes stories and stuff like that?
Ah, that's an interesting question. So the generic answer is that it depends on the poet, because
Okay.
there are essentially two types of poet. There's slam poet, which delves into the world of spoken word artists,
Yeah.
and then there's a page poet, which is more traditional one for writing books and whatnot. So to have that discussion, we normally start at the base. Are you writing for people to read your work, or are you writing for people to listen to your work? If
Okay.
you're writing for people to listen to your work, the structure can be somewhat different,
Okay.
because it mostly focuses on performance. So it'll be
Okay.
more simplistic. You won't use literary devices as much, whereas a page poet, someone who writes for their work to be read,
Hmm.
would focus on the literary device. So you'll see more similes, metaphors, personification, things like that. That being said, it does not mean that a page poet cannot become a spoken word artist. But there's more that goes from to a technical standpoint, because literary devices, especially alliteration, can be hard to perfect in a performance, whereas a spoken word artist will more focus on like the rhyming scheme, etc. So yeah, it depends on the poet. And to relate that to a storyteller now, what I have done and which I found important was to tell stories through poetry. So you can have an amalgamation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, when you listen to rap music,
Oh yeah.
do you feel as if you are hearing something that is poetic, or it's just like, no, it's not poetic?
Well,
Like this is just rap.
no, I find it extremely poetic, and I have written a lot of poems to rap music.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I was very curious about that because
Yeah.
people must have been asking you a lot if you really get into if you dive into the poem world, like because a lot of musicians that's what they strive for,
Yeah, that's it.
to
Because
have that in
yeah,
them.
musicians wants to structure their
Yeah,
especially rap.
rap
Yeah.
especially. Yeah.
Especially rap, if it's not poetic, it's kind of like. But I wanted to know if it's really that's how you also think about it, because I'm not a poet.
Yeah. I
That
mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it depends on if you want a poem to be extremely lyrical, then yes, you'll
Yeah.
draw from that rap perspective. But if you just want to tell a story, essentially, you don't necessarily have to be lyrical. You just have to find a way for it to be extremely emotional.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow,
that's a good point right there.
yeah,
You heard that, the guy in the back. Yeah, that right there is. I'm always looking for the key words, man. That's gonna hit people.
yeah, that
And
emotion
that
thing.
was really good one right there.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, your book Writing for Stars That Want to Return to
To
Constellation.
constellations.
Yes, that was published in 2019.
That was the first one.
That was the first one.
Yep.
How emotional was in writing that book as a start off? Because I
That
feel
was
like there's a lot of stories behind that.
that's a long story for real. That book was actually supposed to come out in 2014, and at that point, I wasn't about publishing or monetizing my work. I just wanted people to read it.
Mm,
So at that time, I was just most posting on Facebook, Instagram, etc. And there were writers after me who were publishing and whatnot, and I didn't see the zeal or, um, you know, I didn't want to go that route. I just wanted to create a space where people could just read poetry freely. 5 years later, a poet who would also become an editor, who had been pressuring me back in 2014,
mm,
told me to publish, and I'm like, listen, I don't see the point, but you know what, I'll try it this time. So at that time, I had written over 450 poems on Facebook and posted them there. So I just said, you know what, okay, instead of writing new ones for my first book, I'll just pull the 20 best ones that I had written.
mm.
And at that time, I was talking to a girl that I liked that was in Los Angeles. And I said, you know what if I release this book on your birthday? And she was like, that'll be exciting. I'm like, okay, so let's do it. So I picked the 20 best poems that I had written from 2012 to 2017, and that was the foundation of my first book.
Mm.
And I always liked reason why I chose the title, two reasons. Pictorial, to paint pictures with words, and I always like the fact that anybody could be a star. You know, it doesn't take much to be a star if you have talent. And I like the whole astrology standpoint of constellations. So imagine someone who deviated from the path of a star but wanted to return to that path, the original path that their parents wanted them to be on. So that's how the name came about. Ready for stars that want to return to constellations.
Wow. That is deep.
It's very deep for
That
sure.
is deep, my brother. I think you off major. The head is spinning right now with a lot. But that
Yeah.
I really like that. And I feel like that's, if you were to start, because you eventually was going to start publishing a lot. But I feel like that's the perfect way to start things. Especially in that kind of sense where the title of the book comes from that feeling, because you obviously have incredible talent,
Thank you.
and the end goal is always to be a star, and people need to recognize
Yeah.
how brilliant you are.
Thank you.
I feel like that's definitely a good start of how to get the book, man. Get the book and get the
Yeah,
career
yeah.
started.
It's really good. I wanted to know, I'm so curious because I've checked the style of your writing is, it's very organized. I want to know, in order for somebody to become, get to this level of writing and get those ideas to put them together. We haven't spoke. No, I'm still going to ask many, many questions on how to decode the messages behind poetries. But which subject somebody can take, either university or what, in order for them to become poet? Or it's
Oh,
just
well,
like something that's,
that's a I like this question the most. A lot of poets, and this is why I had a lot of problems with that word poet. From the time people hear that word, they automatically think two things.
yeah.
You're either going to write about love
Mm-hmm.
or heartbreak. A
Mm-hmm.
poet is much more than that. So that's where a poet would start.
Mm.
But for me, I want to speak on more serious issues. As a black man,
Yeah.
originally I would write poems for women or based on things that women go through.
Mm.
But over the years, I realized that male poets especially, female poets write about things that women go through all the time. Male poets write about things that will captivate females, their struggles and whatnot,
Mm.
especially black females. But a black male poet rarely writes about things that black men go through. So I wanted to write about things like that. I wanted to write about health disorders. I wanted to write about, you know, how women, for example, especially black women, are paid less than, you know, white women or Asian women. I wanted to write about police brutality, those things that would impact people that they're too afraid to speak about. I want to write about mental health problems, autism, Tourette syndrome, all those things. Because people go through those things on a daily basis, but they don't have voices to speak about those things or they don't have forums to speak about those things.
Mm.
Mental health is still considered a taboo subject. My
Yeah,
second book, for
absolutely.
example, I talked about the stigma of male virginity because a woman can be a virgin, you know, she's more desired. But if a man is a virgin at a particular age, he's often rejected. How many jokes have you heard about being a 40-year-old virgin, for example?
Mm.
How does a man process that? He won't, actually. He will skim away from that topic. Men will talk about cars, sports, etc. They won't talk about things that bother them emotionally. As
Oh, man.
such, look at the increase in male suicide, right? More women attempt suicide, more men commit suicide. Why is that?
Wow.
Because they're different. They're first a lot of outlets for women to talk about their problems, the emotional problems. Not as much for men.